Boker Tov, everyone, and welcome to our newest edition of DIY Judaism. Our edition this week is being brought to us by my Stop Kvetching and Carry On mug, which of course is an excellent message given our current state of things. So here we are on the cusp of Passover, and it occurred to me that I want to talk to you about the mezuzah, which is something we all deal with, but it does actually have a tie-in to Passover, all right? And let me explain what that is, and then that will lead us eventually to what you can do with your mezuzahs at home. Actually, I have a number of do-it-yourself proposals here. All right. The first time the word mezuzah appears in the Bible, it's in regard to the Exodus. See, we think the mezuzah refers to the ritual object, which is the text that we put on the doorposts of Jewish homes, on our gates, in the language of the V'ahavta, and on the different rooms of our house. But in fact, the first time it appears is the reference to the idea that our Israelite ancestors, in order to protect themselves from the mashchit. The mashchit means destroyer in Hebrew. Later Jewish tradition would identify the mashchit with the malach hamavet, the angel of death, which is the 10th plague. It's coming to Egypt, but in order for us to protect ourselves, we need to do a certain ritual. Now, the word Pesach is a fascinating one in itself because we're not really sure of its origins. It comes from the root, the verb Pesach, which means to skip or to jump. So that leads us to the slightly elaborated translation of Passover, the idea that the mashchit is going to skip over us or jump over our homes. It's also the case that the word could mean protect. So this ritual protects you by causing the angel of death or the destroyer to pass over your home. So that falls into the area of folklore and that sort of idea. But you know, we're living with our own mashchit right now. We have COVID-19. So I thought I would sort of preface all of this by talking about what we can do in the face of COVID-19 based on our tradition. So what you want to do is you want to start by forging your own kosher knife. Here we have a kosher knife. This is actually well suited to sheep. A kosher knife should not have a point on it. In a later DIY Judaism, I'll take you to my forge and I'll show you how to forge this. Then you get your sheep and you slaughter it. Now, I'm sure many of you are not prepared to slaughter a sheep, so probably sometime in the future in a DIY session yet to be designated, I'll teach you how to slaughter an animal kosherly. But once you've done that, then you gather the blood. I have some nice blood here that we've gathered for the purposes of this. And the key to all of this is the word mezuzah doesn't refer to the ritual object, it's actually the word for the doorpost. Mezuzah is a doorpost. We're told that we're supposed to put blood on the doorpost, the mezuzot, and on the lintel above to keep out the destroyer. So I'm thinking that what we need to be doing as Passover approaches is that we need to maybe do this for each of our homes, right? So you could get any paintbrush at home in order to achieve this, right? I got this used paintbrush, and I thought...
Rabbi, am I going to have to clean that up?
Oh. Okay, yeah, you're right, Bob. You're right. Okay, and truthfully, I don't know if it would make any difference. You know, it is folklore. We know a great deal, a lot more about epidemiology than our ancestors did. So the idea that smearing sheep blood on our doorposts is somehow going to protect us from COVID-19 is probably unreasonable. So instead, maybe what we should do is spray the doorposts of our houses with Lysol. All right. Now, of course, this is a Jewish tradition. My Jewish mother would use Lysol. Greeks prefer Windex, but all you have to do that, there, and voila, you're ready for the holiday. All right. Now, moving beyond that to the real subject at hand is talking about the mezuzah. All right. What we once did with blood, we now do with words, which is really kind of more civilized. All right. And it is an ancient tradition of the Jewish people that we dedicate our homes to the covenant and to service of God by putting up words on our doorposts. All right, and those words, of course, come from the Shema and the V'ahavta, the passages we read that form the center of the first part of our service, where we say Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kavod, Malchuto Le'olam Vayed. We praise God's oneness and recognize that and accept it on ourselves. And then we talk about how we show our love, our manifest love for God. And we are instructed primarily to teach our children, which is exactly what we do at Passover, right? Is to teach our children. So there we are commanded to teach our children. And then the rhetoric goes on to say, and you shall take these words which I command you this day and put them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. Pretty sure that was meant metaphorically. The idea that we should, embody the words of the commandments and have them manifest in our lives, in our homes, is what is meant. However, in an unusual move, Jewish tradition takes those words quite literally. And so what we do is we take the words of the V'ahavta, and then, in order to protect them so that they don't get degraded by the elements, we put them in a little box. Here's two examples here, all right? And what we've come to do is refer to the words and the box which holds them by the term mezuzah, all right? So mezuzah literally means doorpost, but now it has come to represent an object that Jews put on their doorposts. It's how languages evolve, right? Things become symbols for other things that become symbols for other things. So what is this extraordinary little object? Now you'll notice I have two versions here. If you talk to some authorities, this is the ideal version. This is actually made out of acrylic, and you can see through it, all right? The point is that you should, according to these authorities, be able to see the V'ahavta and the Shema there. You can actually see the little Shema right there. It's on a little text, all right? And I have one at home that is made out of brass, but it has a little window in it, and there you can see the text. However, not all authorities agree about that, and it's technically more complicated to make one like that. So what we use instead is a wood or ceramic or metal container that may not actually have the words visible on it, but instead are embossed or embedded or decorated or painted with the words, with the letters Shin Dalet Yud, Shaddai, which is one of the names or titles of God in the Bible, El Shaddai, usually translated as God Almighty, all right? But here it's used as an acronym because Jews were just more clever than we should be. It is Shomrei Daliot Yisrael. That is the guardian of the doorways of Israel. All right, so it becomes a somewhat protective message right here in there. Now, you will encounter Jews even to this day who view this object as a talisman or an amulet. For example, you may encounter a rabbi or a person from Chabad who, in the aftermath of something sad or tragic happening in your home, will immediately ask you, have you checked your mezuzahs? All right? In other words, it could be that one of these has decayed or been defaced, and as a result, the protective circle has been broken. I think most of us are not going to be lured into the idea that these ritual objects actually provide physical or literal protection for the household. Rather, we understand that it's supposed to be a representation, a dedication, a consecration, a sign that this is a Jewish household. All right? Does it mean that it can't protect you? I have no idea. It can't hurt to put one up with that in mind, but I wouldn't make my plans around that. As the Talmud says, you do not depend on miracles. So washing your hands, keeping social distance are going to do as much or more for you than spraying Lysol on the doorposts of your house or putting up a mezuzah. Nevertheless, it is an important mitzvah to put up a mezuzah. So the key to all of this, of course, is not the box, as beautiful as it is, or decorative, but the actual text itself. So here is what is called a cloth. A cloth is a small bit of parchment in which a Jewish scribe has handwritten the Shema and V'ahavta on it. And he's done it in small enough script that you can easily roll it up and put it inside your mezuzah. All right? Now, what I'm going to suggest to you before we talk about putting up a mezuzah is, since you're stuck at home, consider making some, especially if you have children. Make some mezuzahs. Now you're thinking to yourself, well, Rabbi, I already have a mezuzah up on the doorpost of my front door. And absolutely, and you have fulfilled the mitzvah by doing that. However, according to Jewish tradition, it's meritorious to put up a mezuzah on every room in which you dwell in your home. So what qualifies for that? Well, bedrooms, living rooms, game rooms, kitchens. The only places that don't have to have a mezuzah, or I'm sorry, let me rephrase that, are not allowed to have a mezuzah are closets, spaces dedicated entirely to storage, and to toilets and bathrooms. Our ancestors couldn't imagine the wonderful, wonderful indoor toilets we have, where we now actually spend a great deal of time dwelling and with a great deal of joy. But be that as it may, they were thinking of an outhouse. And so you do not put a mezuzah on a bathroom, just as you would not put a mezuzah on an outhouse. A garage is a debatable one. If you've got a man cave out there, you should. But I would encourage you to put them on as many of the doorways in your home as possible. So if you have some extra ones, hang them. And I'll show you how to hang them in just a moment. If you don't, that shouldn't stop you either, all right? So in terms of what you can do is, you can, of course, go to the World Wide Web, and you can order, and they come in many forms, little pre-cut boxes or containers that are designed to be done as a mezuzah, and you can turn it into an art project. You can do it with your children. If your dog is bored, you can do it with your dog. You can create something attractive, and it can be completely unique to you. It can be something that inspires you or something you want to represent. My son Micah made a mezuzah for himself for his room that is there even to this day. It's a rocket ship. And so I would recommend you do something that inspires you. Now, if you don't want to do that and you just want to go around your home, there's all kinds of things you could use. For example, you could use an empty medicine bottle. All right. There are those little glitter tubes for holding glitter that you can get at Michael's or something along those ways. So any sort of plastic or wood or metal tube that you can come across is fine. I found these in the synagogue. We've got a rocket ship. We've got an airplane. A young person might love to have these on their doorposts. Anything that can serve as a modest-sized container can serve as a mezuzah. The big challenge, of course, is the cloth, all right? Because this is the work of a professional scribe. You can order them online. I would always recommend doing that. We're trying to figure out ways to support the economy while we're trapped in the home. These cost usually around $30 to $35 a piece, which seems on the face of it quite expensive, but it is a handmade artisan object. We should honor that. And I would urge you to get yourself authentic, properly produced kosher klafim for your mezuzahs. If, however, you're not in a position to do that, I don't see any reason, if you've got a kosher mezuzah on your front door, that you can't have the children write out their own version of the Shema, even in English, and they have to write it small enough that it'll fit inside the container. But you can make it handmade all the way. Do-it-yourself Judaism. I don't think there is anything sacrilegious in encouraging our children to try and do the most they can do with the Jewish traditions they have. So, if you are tormented, however, and the idea of making yourself you've got visitors, and you're uncomfortable with the idea of making your own mezuzah, and you don't have a mezuzah at home, of course, Bob would be able to arrange for you to buy one from our gift shop. Again, a boost to the economy, most especially the Kol Ami economy. But if you absolutely can't have that, I have some little brass mezuzahs that passed down to me. And if you want one or two as part of your project, you can contact me and I will be happy to set them out here on the bench, and you can come by at your leisure and pick them up. In any case, what I'd like you to do is try making yourself a mezuzah. But the essence of what we're doing is putting up the mezuzah, all right? And that's really the core. Everything I've been doing up to this point is leading up to this. So you've got all these rooms in your house. They don't currently have a mezuzah on them. So what do? So the tradition is, and the way this door is engineered, you can't, most of us have an insert that goes in. This is flat, so oddly enough, because of the structure of the doorway, our mezuzahs are indoors here at Kol Ami. But I'm going to use this. If you were to imagine this facing at a 90-degree angle from the door, this is what you want to do. You want to put it up about 2/3, or roughly about shoulder level, someplace it's easy to reach with your hand as your location. Now, if you're in a children's room, why not put it down here? Right? Because your child will be acknowledging the presence of that mezuzah. If in fact we were to open this door, maybe I can, let's see. We actually have it set up here at Kol Ami so that we have an adult level mezuzah, and then we have a children's level mezuzah. All right? Nothing sacrilegious, wrong about having multiple mezuzahs on the same door. And this one encourages us at all ages and all heights to embrace this tradition. So what do? You put it on, and what you want to do ideally is angle it. Now the tradition has debated this for centuries. So the question was, should it go vertically? That's what Rashi says. His son-in-law in Germany, Rabbi Tom, argued that it should be horizontal. And so famously, according to the story, whether it's accurate or not, they compromised. And that itself is a great symbol for a Jewish household. Mezuzah represents compromise. And especially when we're all stuck at home together, you should compromise as much as you can. You put it at an angle with the upper tip tilting in towards the building. That's how you mount it. And generally the way this is performed, it's a very, very simple ritual, is you're going to partially nail it above and below, not completing it. And when you are ready, it is self-supporting, you are going to recite 2 brachot, right? The first bracha is the blessing for hanging a mezuzah, which is an Asher Kiddushanu blessing. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Asher Kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al likboa mezuzah. Praised are you, Adonai, our God, who fills time and space, who sanctifies us through commandments and commands us to affix a mezuzah. All right? And then the second blessing you're going to say, if you haven't put up a mezuzah recently, is you're going to say Shekianu. Right? That's your second bracha, to acknowledge that something special has happened. Now, since I've proposed that you put up multiple ones, one on each one of your rooms, you don't have to repeat those brachot every time you go to a new room. One bracha, it's like Zoom. One account covers everything, right? So with that, you can go around and you can put up all of your beautiful handmade or sitting in your drawer or mysterious, I don't know where I got this from, Mezuzot, and you can fill your house with God's presence. Will it help? Won't hurt. And it might be something to inspire you at a time when we're feeling worried and anxiety and filled with anxiety. The idea that the symbol, this ancient symbol, something we have been doing, Jews have done for themselves for over probably about 2,300 years. It's a relatively recent practice. This gives us a sense of connection to the larger Jewish world. It makes our home a more welcoming and more sacred place simultaneously. So I encourage you to embrace this tradition at any level that you feel drawn to, putting up mezuzot, certainly, making them, writing cloths, purchasing and creating. Doing these things will both fill your time and, I hope, will fill your heart. Well, Boker Tov, everybody. It's a pleasure doing DIY Judaism with you again, and we'll be talking next week.